year, my voice studio at NYU Steinhardt was almost entirely composed of fantastic female identifying singers. Now, I feel very comfortable working with female identifying folks, and I enjoy exploring the similarities and differences between their voices and those of other gender expressions. In the last year, especially, some of my female identifying students have generously shared with me how their menstrual cycle impacts their singing. Of course, this is something I had a vague knowledge of, but when a particular student started having issues with a medication as it related to her cycle, I realized I was in very unfamiliar waters. Several years ago, I came across the work of Michael Smithson, a social scientist at Australian National University. He shared the following analogy to explain the relationship between knowledge and ignorance. He wrote, "The larger the island of knowledge grows, the longer the shoreline where knowledge meets ignorance extends. The more we know, the more we can ask. Questions don't give way to answers as much as they proliferate together. Answers breed questions. Curiosity isn't merely a static disposition, but rather a passion of the mind that is ceaselessly earned and nurtured." Gosh, I love that. Well, today I am definitely standing on the shoreline of my ignorance, which can be a vulnerable place to be, admittedly, but I have no need to fear because today's guest is not only very knowledgeable when it comes to sex hormones and their effects on the singing voice, but as I have come to know her, she is also someone who is unafraid to stand on that shoreline with me. Hello, my name is David Sisco. My pronouns are he, him, and welcome to my podcast, Wholehearted Voice Pedagogy. This podcast is dedicated to the art and practice of teaching singers. It is an extension of my book of the same title, which I am thrilled to announce is finally available for purchase at Routledge Press or anywhere you purchase your books. Today, we're going to have a very far-reaching conversation about sex hormones, vocal pedagogy, and much, much more. My very special guest today is Dr. Vindhya Khare, who is assistant teaching professor and coordinator of vocal performance at the Herbert and Nicole Wertheim School of Music and Performing Arts at Florida International University. She received her DMA degree in vocal pedagogy and performance from the University of Miami Frost School of Music, with doctoral research in the field of sex hormones and the female singing voice. She's presented her research at the International Congress of Voice Teachers Conference in Stockholm, the NATS National Conference in Chicago, Carnegie Mellon University, Palm Beach Atlantic University, the Savannah Voice Festival, Cheryl Milne's Florida Voice Experience, and the American Guild of Organists, Miami. Not to mention numerous choral organizations in South Florida with upcoming invitations at various universities. Vindhya, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited and honored to be part of your podcast.
I think so highly of you. And first of all, let me just say your office at school is beautiful.
Thank you. It is a small, intimate space. And before we go any further, I must say congratulations to you on your new book. I am so excited to read it.
Thank you. That's so kind. So I wanted to engage with you today for many reasons. One, I just adore you as a human being, and I really respect you as a colleague. But I wanted to engage with you around this topic of sex hormones, and because I saw your presentation at the NATS conference in Chicago, I think it was, and really blew my mind. And I was just wondering, and I think you shared at that conference, can you talk a little bit about your kind of the path that led you toward that research during your DMA?
Okay, well, and I'm very transparent about sharing what happened to me. At the age of, I think it was 42, I read somewhere in an article, and this was not a scholarly article, it was probably like in Cosmo or something like that, that where women get a lot of their information, that and now TikTok. So I read something that said women should not be on birth control after the age of 40, that there were dangers, that there were all kinds of risks. So I thought, oh my gosh, I better go off of birth control. So without consulting with a doctor, I just, at the age of 42, boom, I went off. And let me just say, I'd been on the pill for a very long time before that. And what happened was within like 3 months, my voice totally changed. It
Wow.
just, I remember exactly when it happened. I was in High Holy Days rehearsal, and my voice just said no. And my range contracted to 6 notes. I remember exactly D4 to B4. And that was,
Wow.
I couldn't even, with bad technique, make anything happen beyond that. That was it. And so, unfortunately, I've also had a career as a pianist. I was a pianist first and coach. So I thought, okay, I can't sing. I still have a music career. I'm still fine. I'm okay. So I did go to my doctor, my general practitioner, and I told him, this thing has happened to my voice. I did not connect it to the pill, to going off the pill. And he asked me, has anything changed? I'm like, no, nothing's changed. Do you feel different? No, I don't feel different. I feel fine. I feel very healthy. Well, something must have changed. I said, well, I just went off the pill, but that's it. He's like, oh, I don't know. That's weird. Maybe you should go to your gynecologist. So I went to my gynecologist, a female gynecologist, because I was sure she would know. Certainly, she would be very sympathetic to what I was going through. And I described to her what happened and could it be related to going off the pill? And she said, oh, no, I've never heard of anything like that. That's weird. That's all I got. That's,
So comforting.
then
Great. I'm weird. Love that.
That's so strange. I've never heard of that. Then I was working at a summer opera program, and there was an ENT who was giving a presentation to the singers, the participants, and I was there. And afterwards, I approached him and said, may I ask you a question? I didn't really want to ask it in front of everybody. And when I asked it, he looked horrified, like, why are you talking to me about birth control? Beyond, like, it's beyond the scope of anything that has anything to do with him. So I let it go. I focused on coaching. I focused on playing piano. And it wasn't until I was a non-traditional student when I went back for my master's degree in vocal performance. And so within several months, my voice started to return, but it was different. It was fuller. I lost high notes, extreme high notes, but it did come back. It did come back. So I happened to mention this when I was working on my master's degree. I was talking to Dr. Kathleen Wilson, a pedagogue who also has a master's degree in speech language pathology and is very much in tune with issues that deal with hormones, females. I explained to her what had happened, and I said, I don't know. I don't know if it has anything to do with going off the pill, with hormones. And she's like, yes, it absolutely does. And I'll tell you why. Okay, but can we just reflect on that? Medical professionals who I would have hoped would have some answers for me did not have answers. It was a voice pedagogue. How about
Wow.
that? How
Yeah.
about that? And then she shared with me that she had been going to the Voice Foundation symposiums. And
Hmm.
there was an article written in 1999 by Dr. Jean Abitol on sex hormones and the female voice, female singing voice. And in that, he outlines the science behind how the vocal folds are hormone receptors, and whatever is going on, what I tell my students, whatever's going on down south is what is being mirrored in your larynx. So there. And then I wondered, how come why isn't everyone talking about this? I mean, 1999, that was a while ago, right?
Yeah.
We're talking 26 years ago. A lot of my students aren't even 26 years old,
Same.
right? But why is this not a conversation in every voice studio that is had with every female singer? So then I decided, okay, I'm going to talk about this. I'll do it. which means that I also have to talk about myself. And I've decided I'm fine with that. I will talk about myself. So
Yeah.
that's the answer.
Well, thank you, and it's a really powerful story, and it's a reminder of like how much power we have, to use our stories and use our experiences to the benefit of our students, right?
Right.
You said as we were kind of corresponding about this episode, you made a really fantastic point that hormones make us who we are, and you just kind of reflected that a little bit in what you just shared. But can you give a brief overview of how hormones impact our mental, physical, and emotional states?
Okay. My newest read and my newest obsession, because and you might be similar, when you find something that piques your interest, you're all in.
Correct.
I suspect you might be like that.
Very
So
much.
I love podcasts, and I love your podcast. And one of the podcasts I do follow is Diary of a CEO, and he was interviewing Dr. Sarah Hill, who is a psychologist who does a lot of research on behavior and sex hormones in females. And her book that I've been reading is This Is Your Brain on Birth Control. And while this seems to, I mean, I'm not in, I'm in my 50s. I'm 57. But I,
50. Woo!
yes. Oh, let me just tell you, you're entering your best decade.
Oh, I receive. I
This
receive.
is the best. But what I've discovered in reading this book is I've learned a lot about, it's not just about birth control, because the way she sets it up is she educates on what do these hormones do? What does estrogen do? What does progesterone do? What does testosterone do in a female? And when I say testosterone, a lot of people think, well, isn't that a male hormone? Well, yes, but it's also a female hormone. Because did you know that when women are in their childbearing years, there is more testosterone in our system than estrogen?
I did not know that.
Fun fact. Uh-huh. So these facts are all fun because the more we know about ourselves, the more fun we can actually have. So estrogen, it comes down to understanding, when does estrogen peak? And so we have to talk about our menstrual cycle. And Dr. Hill suggests that we could think about it as our ovulatory cycle. Because why do we have a period? Because we ovulated. Therefore, the
Sure.
reaction is a period. We don't have a period, and then that causes the 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 centerpiece is ovulation. So if we talk about an average 28-day cycle, and I'm saying average because I understand women are different. But day one is when your period starts. And then as you approach ovulation, like day 10 to 14 ish, estrogen is rising, 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 rising. And then after ovulation, it decreases. And progesterone, think progesterone is for progestation, assuming at ovulation, conception occurred. But even if it doesn't occur, progesterone rises. And then both hormones
Taper off.
crash when it's realized that, oh, we didn't conceive. Let's do this all over again every month until menopause. Okay, but hormones are brain hormones. Estrogen does really interesting and exciting things. Just think, if a woman is preparing for the possibility of conception, and this is biological, going back to our ancestral history, we're going back thousands of years. Estrogen creates a mood. It creates moods, it creates behaviors, and motivation. So if we're and this is subconsciously, if we're looking forward to conception, what are we going to do? I'm going to make myself look hot. I'm going to care about how I smell. I'm going to present myself differently. I'm going to be the better self, the better version of
Hmm.
myself. How interesting is that to know that about myself? I may not understand that part, but I sure do understand what happens after ovulation when progesterone takes over. So, assuming we conceived, what is our mood then? What's our behavior? It's a little more quiet, nesting, protective. So, my mood, my behaviors, my motivations have changed.
Mm.
So, I'm a slightly different version of myself. And this, I had an eye opening moment when one of my students, so we call the first part of the cycle the follicular phase, the estrogen rising phase.
Present.
Then we have ovulation, phase cycle, and then we have what is called the luteal phase, which is the progesterone dominant cycle. One of my students, who is a sophomore, walks in for her lesson, and I always check in. We take their temperature, we take their blood pressure, right? When they walk in, how are we doing? How's everything? And she says, "Oh, I'm feeling a little meh. I'm in my luteal cycle, my luteal phase." I'm in, and
Oh,
I
excuse me.
thought, wow, I wish every one of my female students would come in and announce where they are in their cycle. What an insight.
Yeah.
That's a whole lot of information right there.
Yeah, of course. What I'm taking from what you've shared this far is that, I mean, obviously it impacts so much of subconsciously, right? So much of a woman, female identifying person's experience. Can you talk maybe more at the level of the vocal folds, how those changes kind of happen through those cycles?
Yes, yes. So and this is all outlined in great detail in Dr. Abitol's 1999 study, which is in the Journal of Voice, not the
Great.
Journal of Singing, but the Journal of Voice. Yes. So he very, very clearly outlines how when we are in the follicular phase, pre ovulation, the vocal folds have a very good fluid distribution. Estrogen promotes that thin, watery mucus. And yes, we need mucus. We know that. There's mucus throughout our bodies, but it's that thin, watery mucus those are very friendly singing conditions for a female. However, we may not be aware that, oh, I'm experiencing this wonderful thing. But what we do know is when it's not wonderful. And
Hmm.
that is in the luteal phase. And what happens then is, just think, what is happening to down south? The endometrial mucosa is being prepared and it is creating a hospitable environment, very cushy, lots of mucus for an embryo. Okay, what's happening up in the larynx? Thick mucus, edema, swelling. That's what we notice. So, so I know in my female students, I know when something, we know our female singers' voices. We know all of our singers' voices, male or female. So, we can detect when something's not quite right. And then of course, when a singer is having their period, there are all kinds of other things that accompany that. Fatigue, moodiness. We see our students come in with that. Females, we experience that ourselves. So knowing what to expect is important, and letting our students know what to expect. We have to know ourselves as females, and to know ourselves, we have to know our cycle. So I encourage female singers to track their periods and to journal about it. Journal about how they feel, and journal about what kind of condition they feel their voice is in.
Can you talk maybe a little bit, or give some thoughts on like how us male identifying folks can talk to female identifying folks about this in ways that are respectful, and and not creepy. You know what I mean? Like it's just something that it's a very gentle line that we have to navigate, right?
Yes, yes. Okay, there's an interesting article in the Journal of Singing about 10 years ago that came out about having communication in the voice studio about menstruation. Forgive me, well, or don't forgive me, I'm just going to call it period because that's what women call it. We don't say
Sure.
menstruating, we say I'm having my period. Okay. Um, so the study was on how comfortable, and the age range was like 17 to 20 something, like right around undergrad, master's level range of female students, asking them, how comfortable are you talking about your period in your voice studio? How comfortable are you with a female teacher? Well, like 90% are, they felt fine. They felt, it might be a little uncomfortable, but they're okay. Then they asked the question about a male teacher. How comfortable are you? And like only 60% said they were okay with it, but the majority of those did not feel comfortable. And
Yeah.
we don't want our students to be uncomfortable.
Oh my gosh. I mean, our whole job is to, co-create safe space,
That
right?
is
So like,
true. Right.
yeah,
And the last thing we want is a student, filing a grievance against us saying, Professor Sisco wanted to talk about my period. Oh my gosh, we don't want that. We don't
right.
want that. This is what I recommend and what was suggested in this article. Don't talk one on one. Make it a group. Maybe a
Mm,
small group so conversations can freely happen, and come with the research. Have the research ready. Provide that. Several examples. Dr. Abitol's study, other studies. I keep bringing up his study because it is the seminal study.
yeah. Of course, it's not in our best interest to fight our biology, but I'm wondering if you can give me some examples or give us some examples of how female identifying singers can actually work with their bodies when singing feels different or even difficult.
Mhm. Well, I would go back to the idea that we have to know our bodies. We really, really do. And I have to say that the research I'm following now is it's honestly not what I get from research on the voice. It's from what I get from doctors who specialize in research on females. For myself, it's Dr. Mary Claire Haver, who is an OBGYN specialist in perimenopause and menopause. It's Dr. Sarah Hill, who's a research psychologist who wrote the book I discussed, This Is Your Brain on Birth Control. And she has a new book coming out that is something about just the luteal phase, which I can't wait to get my hands on. I'm very interested in the research of Dr. Stacy Sims, who is a physiologist, a researcher. Her TED talk on women are not just small men, I think is really fascinating because our biology is different. And I would
Yeah.
use parallel that females are not just singers with high voices. We are so different because of hormones, because of what makes us female. Um, Also, Dr. Vonda Wright, who is an orthopedic surgeon. These are women who know about the female body. Why does that matter? Well, where's our voice? It's not in a velvet case in the closet. We're walking around with it all the time.
Yeah.
Everything is in the voice. Our emotions are here, our hormones, our everything, our general well being is carried in our larynx. So we have to know ourselves.
Yeah. I am. Thank you for sharing those resources, and I will put those in the podcast notes, as many of them as I can, just for those listeners who want to engage with those great resources. Thank you. Um, I'm wondering. This is not something that we a question that I kind of floated to you, but I'm wondering, do you have a like? Why do you think it is that like you're talking about, again, a 1999 study and that all of this information that you're gathering is actually from outside our community, right? And that's not to suggest that no one's talking about it, but it does suggest that it's maybe not a hot topic for research. And I'm just wondering if you have any thoughts on why that is.
That's that is so interesting. This is something I think about, oh, all the time, because we're in America, we're more than 50% of the population.
Hello.
We are all under the influence of sex hormones. We are still, even women will say, my time of the month. And I'm like, oh, you mean your period? We still are, it's still taboo.
Yeah.
Um, which is, and I was just thinking totally, kind of on a tangent. There's even in the Bible and the Gospels, they're talking about the woman with the issue of blood. If anyone, I know all the singers out there have church jobs. You have heard, you have heard this. It's like in three of the Gospels, talking
Yes.
about this woman with an issue of blood. What is that? She didn't prick her finger. No, she is she is having menstrual bleeding, and
Yeah.
she is unclean. She's unclean, and I think that is permeating a couple thousand years later into um, who we are as women. Like we're a mystery. We don't really have science-based information that we're drawing from.
Hmm.
So, um, and also as voice teachers, where do we get a lot of our information? Like where do you get your information as a voice teacher?
I just read a lot of books, journals, and
Journals?
conferences,
Yeah, what's our main journal?
journal of singing.
Journal of Singing. Okay. The very first, and I think this is great. The very first article on hormones in the human voice came out in, you won't believe this, 1971. That's a long time ago. That's like 45 years ago.
Yeah.
Um, 1971, Dr. Brodnitz recognized that there are changes in the female voice, but here's what I really appreciate. He recognized that this information is not getting into the hands of voice teachers and their students. Then, the next article to appear in the Journal of Singing on hormones and the voice was 22 years later.
Wow.
That's a big gap. When Dr. Sadaloff published his article on hormones and the voice. And then there was another follow up article the next year. But then it was not until nearly 20 years later when the next article appeared on sex hormones and singers. Um, and then, um, no, the effects of hormones on the voice. I'm referring to my notes. But I have to say that this article did not address perimenopause. It touched on menopause, but not perimenopause.
Mhm.
So, for those who don't know, just some very basics. In America, the average age of menopause is 51. What is menopause? It's when you have had typically 1 year of no periods. Then you are menopausal. You are in menopause. So then you have the rest of your life where you are depleted of estrogen and progesterone. But what happens leading up to that? We're in our steady cycle, that magic carpet ride of the fluctuation of estrogen and progesterone. And then as menopause approaches, we go through perimenopause. Do you have any idea how long perimenopause is?
I mean, it's several years, right?
It is 8 to 10 years.
I was going for 6. I didn't know 8 to 10. Well, okay.
Right. And so if the average year of menopause is 51, there are women who are 40 who go through menopause. Well, let's
Sure.
back up. Let's back up 10 years before that. You're 30. You're 30. And you're going through, Dr. Mary Claire Haver describes perimenopause as hormone chaos. So you can't
Right.
you can't rely on the follicular phase and then the luteal phase. It's unreliable. So what are we going to do with our students who walk in and we're like, I don't know what's going on with you? We have to know. We have to be able
Yeah.
to to suggest to them that they look into this. I'm not going to tell a student you're perimenopausal, but I mean, I may think it on the inside.
I certainly will not do that.
You might not also,
Yeah.
but absolutely lead them to the research primary sources of
Yeah.
where they can learn about it. Can we talk about another thing that is so very, very important?
Oh, I'm here for it, please.
Okay, since we're talking about hormones, we have to talk about contraception. We really do. And in the 1993 article by Dr. Sadaloff on hormones in the voice, he issues a warning about ovulation inhibitors. Do you know what that is? The pill.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Ovulation inhibitors. Sometimes it's also, in past years, referred to as chemical prevention of pregnancy. We're talking about the pill. We're talking about the pill. And it's important to know that the pill has evolved. There's like 5 generations of the pill, starting from 1960 to a recent one from I think like 2018. So it's an evolving um, medication,
Sure.
but it does alter our hormones. And it's important to know that, yes, there are these different formulations. The difference often lies in the progestogen, which is synthetic progesterone. Um, and what they do, what hormonal birth control does, whether it's an IUD or the pill, hormonal IUD or the pill, is it stops ovulation. It prevents ovulation. I mean, that makes perfect sense. Then we don't get pregnant,
Sure.
right? And this was revolutionary for women to,
Have that control.
what freedom to have that decision making in your life of when to have children and what relationships you want to have in your life that don't have the potential of leading to pregnancy. So, but let's talk about if we don't ovulate, we are, this is explained very well in Dr. Sarah Hill's book. We are constantly in the luteal phase. What does that mean?
Mm,
That is the progesterone dominant phase. Estrogen is not dominant, progesterone is. That's the phase where we're kind of a little flat in that nesting mode. And because these are synthetic hormones in birth control, our responses are kind of, she refers to it as being blunted, which is so many interesting things come from this that are not even vocally related. Why are we typically on birth control? A woman is typically on birth control to prevent pregnancy. So obviously sex is happening, but there are also off-label uses like for heavy periods, acne, other
Sure.
things. But the primary reason is to prevent pregnancy. Okay, if you're in that luteal phase, you're not in that excited estrogen ready for conception phase. In other words, your drive, sex drive, and other zest for life drives may be blunted. That says a lot about who women are. I think of all
Yeah.
the years I've been on birth control, and then I think of what kind of person did that make me? I am convinced that I'm a different person because of that. My decision making, my attitudes, my behaviors, my motivations, even outside of singing, uh, are altered. I have several students who are middle-aged women. Guess what they're going through? And just like the answer is perimenopause.
Perimenopause. Okay, good. It's like, again, I was like, oh, I think that's the answer. Is that the answer?
No shame, no shame. There's no
No,
shame.
good, good. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
So they're going through perimenopause, as am I. However, I've been researching this for like 15 years. So before I was in perimenopause, I knew exactly what was coming. So once the
Hmm.
symptoms started hitting, I'm like, check, check, check. I would say, okay, so these students I have are in their 40s to 50s. And so let's back it up. If I have a student who's like in her early 40s and she's been going through this for a while, she may have started perimenopause in her late 30s.
Sure.
Hey, that's when women are, in their peak career, right? And then this starts happening. And then their voices become, this has changed, right? And so they may come to their voice teacher and present with these changes in their voice that are inexplicable. And I think it's our responsibility as a voice teacher to, so while I am Dr. Khare, I'm not a physician, but I am so happy to encourage my students to go to a gynecologist who is a hormone specialist. I am very fortunate. I researched to find my doctor. She only takes students, not students. I take students. She only takes patients over the age of 35. So,
That's awesome.
so I help my students understand, okay, these are the changes I know because I'm going through them. These are the changes that are happening. And please, please find a trusted doctor, one who is trained in advising you on hormone replacement therapy. So, what are the trends now, today, in hormone replacement therapy? And this is where I would suggest that that teachers and female singers research the work of Dr. Mary Claire Haver, and I should say also Dr. Kelly Casperson. She's a female board certified urologist who specializes in midlife health for women. So, what is offered by trained doctors should be bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. The pill is not bioidentical.
Hmm.
It is synthetic. Therefore, it doesn't have the same response in the body. But bioidentical hormones are recommended. They are actually, and of course, your physician will give you the recommendation. But for most women, they are safe. I know there's a lot of fear. There's a lot of fear based on misinformation from the Women's Health Initiative from like 25 years ago, or however many years ago that study came out, which caused a lot of fear. Women went off of off of their hormone replacement therapy. We have a generation of women who have been depleted of all estrogen and progesterone because of fear. And it's not, and it didn't have to happen. So if I'm on estrogen, and I am on a transdermal patch. Transdermal. The Women's Health Initiative was an oral synthetic hormone replacement. I am on bioidentical. This is commonly prescribed by doctors who know. Transdermal. It's a little patch. It looks like a little sticker that twice a week I put one. It's on one side half the week, and then I get a new one. It's on the other side. We alternate. I am also on progesterone. It's an oral, micronized, bioidentical progesterone. So my hormones have not bottomed out as they do when a woman is up. So if we are in our peak voice when we're in the follicular phase and we have estrogen in our lives, what happens when we are menopausal and our hormones have crashed? How am I going to keep singing?
Right.
My vocal folds need estrogen. My vocal folds have estrogen receptors. That's what makes my voice female. Your voice is male because of testosterone. And while I have testosterone, it doesn't affect my voice the way it affects a male voice. When you go through puberty, your larynx bulks up, your cricoid cartilage widens, your vocal folds get bulkier. That doesn't happen to a typical female. I am also, get ready for this, I am on testosterone. Okay, these articles that were written in the 90s, early 2000 would warn that women must never take any androgenic or testosterone medications because it will masculinize the voice and may be irreparable. It may be a permanent condition that the voice has been masculinized. That is not the case for topical testosterone. And the female dose is 1/10 of the male dose. So this is where you have to go to a physician who knows.
So it's what I'm hearing is it's you're working with a doctor to kind of figure out to kind of map out what is your concoction of estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. Is that correct?
Exactly. Blood tests are done. Every woman is different. You are exactly right. Exactly right. I am very happy to report that at the age of 57, my voice sounds like I would say I've gone back in time 15 years.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Even my habitual pitch, my speaking voice has gone up. And people who know me have commented on that. Some of my high notes have returned. My vibrato is no longer this, big wobble that you could drive a truck through.
Right.
Agility has returned. It's like being given a gift. And less than 4% of American women are on hormone replacement therapy.
Wow. Less than
It's
4%.
shocking. And why? Because they don't have information.
Yeah.
Who could give them the information? Well, I could.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's why you're here. You have a podcast that you're launching, and I just wanted to ask about it. If you could just tell us a little bit about it.
Okay. Well, it's called the She Sings Podcast, where we talk about all things related to the amazing female voice. And it's interesting how this came about because it's sort of, I would like to, I kind of think of it in the back of my mind as the accidental podcast. Here at the university, a course was offered on fundamentals of podcasting using AI. And I thought, oh, well, there's a couple things I'm interested in. I love podcasts, and I am so curious about AI. So I signed up for this credentialing course, and lo and behold, in order to receive the certificate, we had to create a podcast.
Whoops.
I started a podcast. Well, I didn't really start it because I've come up with my brand, I've come up with my concept, but then that was at the end of the academic year, and I promptly took a trip to the UK and Australia, and now I'm going to Vienna next week, and so it has not even launched
Yet.
yet.
But people can follow you on Instagram, what is your handle?
Okay, so Vindhya Musica, which is my first name, and music with an A, Vindhya Musica, and the She Sings podcast.
That's fantastic. Well, I can't wait to listen. I mean, I've learned so much from you today, and thank you for your generosity in sharing, and just for your collegiality. I'm just so grateful for you, Vindhya, and for our friendship. It's great to have colleagues like you to be like, it's safe to continue learning. It's not only safe, it's expected. It's the way that we continue challenging ourselves and stay in that growth mindset and demonstrate that to our students. And so you're such a great example of that to me, and I appreciate you.
As are you. This is all mutual. I have never met anyone who cared so much about the student in front of them and meeting their needs and caring for what they need. And that has evolved. That has changed from when I was a college student in the 80s.
Same.
The student in front of us today has different needs, and there are a lot of needs.
There's a lot of shorelines for us to stand and and observe and expand, which is a good place to be. It's overwhelming, but it's also empowering, because it means that we're not done, which I like.
Yes, how exciting that we get to learn more.
Yeah. It's not just for our students; it's for us too.
Yes.
Wow, what a great conversation. Pretty fascinating, right? And I think it's just a reminder that we all have different things to learn from each other. So, how are you expanding your island of knowledge? Who's expanding it with you? Sound off. You can email me at wholeheartedvoicepedagogy@gmail.com, or as always, you can find me on the socials. My handle on most platforms is at Sisco Songs and at Wholehearted Voice Pedagogy. We're just going to continue on through that. And please do not forget to subscribe to my podcast. I have some really cool episodes coming down the pike. And as always, I would love to share them with you. More soon. Take care of you.